Today's episode is brought to you by Lightspeed Systems, dedicated to supporting K-12 online education. Their narrow market focus has allowed them to design innovative solutions that fit the specific and growing needs of school districts. Their unparalleled expertise in K-12 has helped them develop the most up-to-date enterprise-class software that is easy to implement and even easier to use. Lightspeed products filter student and staff internet access, look for warning signs in student online activity, manage software across every district device, and give administrators the data they need to make effective decisions about the quality and efficiency of their students' online educational experience. Lightspeed Systems is a trusted partner to tens of thousands of schools.
You're listening to the EduTechGuys, EduTechGuys.com.
Hey, welcome back to the EduTech Guys. We're excited to have our next guest in the seat. We're going to let them tell us who they are, what they do, and all that kind of good stuff. So here we go.
Hi, thanks for having us. I'm Amanda Sutter. I am the Vice President of Product Management for Lightspeed Systems. And really what I do, my team and I really work to build and execute our portfolio roadmap. So we're just working to make sure we're on top of what's happening in the market and what's top of mind for our clients. Really, we like to say we're client obsessed. So we work to have as many touch points with clients as we can, doing interviews and focus groups, design discovery, all those great things. And also doing our own research around trends, changes in laws that impact EdTech. Ultimately just really wanting to be innovative, solve problems, and help make our clients' jobs easier. So working to make sure we're doing, the right things and the things that are going to be the best experience and most valuable to the clients.
Cool.
Great. And I'm Klaire Moreno. I'm the other guest from Lightspeed Systems today. I'm the head of product marketing. So what I do day to day is really kind of talk to clients, see how they're using our solutions to make their districts better, share that information across like districts so that we can share best practices. Also make sure that they know what the latest and greatest are. What are the new features? What are the new products they need to know so that, they're using the solutions to the best possible way to help their districts. So, working with, teachers that are using some of our products in the classroom, but mainly EdTech teams. So, everyone within that, network admins, data privacy people, and of course, like technology managers and leaders. So, that's what we do on my team.
So before we get too far off into the weeds in our conversation, because who knows where we're going to go. Let's real quickly, can you kind of sum up what does Lightspeed do? When you talk about your clients, you talk about your teachers, talk about your tech folks, what does Lightspeed offer to schools in order to benefit their technology needs?
Yeah, I think origin story. That's what.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I can take that one if you want.
Okay. Take it on.
Okay. So Lightspeed has been around for over 20 years. And sometimes when people think of Lightspeed, they think of a filtering product that, allows districts to manage students' internet usage and their policies. And we do that. We're experts in that space, but we do a lot more. So from filtering and device management, to solutions in the safety and wellness space, we've got classroom tools that help teachers manage their classrooms and give them visibility into student activity on their devices. We have an alert product that identifies at-risk student behavior. And then one of the most recent additions to our portfolio is an analytics product, Digital Insight, which really gives a comprehensive view of district-wide app usage and engagement with those apps. And it provides tools for managing, app approvals and licenses, as well as privacy policies. And then within that product, we've recently released a new module, Digital Equity, which I think we'll talk a little bit more about today. But that gives schools, a way to identify, poor or no internet connection. So lots of great products and features in our portfolio, and we've got new things being added all the time, features that bring new value to products and things that tap into market trends like AI. So always exciting things being developed and delivered.
Well, okay. I was just going to say, and you probably just sort of touched on this kind of what I can't remember what they call it, bearing the lead or whatever. So the question I have though, as we've been talking so far, I'm kind of curious as to what are some of the trends and or changes that you've seen, especially like, let's say right before pandemic, into the pandemic, and now that we're several years after the shutdown? What are some of the things that you've seen run kind of the gamut, and where things appear to be going in terms of the services that you guys offer?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously with the pandemic and the move to remote learning, there was, we see that the device to student ratio was obviously under 1-to-1. Now, as we all know, it is 1-to-1 in most districts, and potentially more than 1-to-1 in some districts. And so, that has just been something which has been really important for our clients, because obviously we protect like all devices. So, whether it's Chromebook, an iPad, Windows, laptop, and making sure that all of those devices are protected, not just in the school when they're used, but also at home. And so that's one of the things that we see as emerging trends. And also, the parental community visibility into that. So kids are taking their devices home. And so parents, want to be able to make sure that they have some tools to control that, school issued device when it's at home. And so just making sure that we're keeping up on some of those needs from our district partners, so that they can make sure that they can do that in an effective way. The other thing is just, I think, which you guys probably experience, but just lack of time, teacher shortages, like just staff shortages. So, we do, obviously, like Amanda said, her team is doing research all the time. And that's been a huge thing that we've heard in mental health teams that use our Lightspeed Alert product, in the IT teams that are like, we're managing policies and we're supporting parents, we're, supporting students and teachers, and we don't have enough time. We get into the office and our day that we thought just got blown up, and we have all these other things coming in, and we're having trouble keeping staff. And so just, making sure that, helping those teams that are under-resourced and understaffed to be able to do things more effectively. That's been a big thing for us. And then I would say, like, even in the past year, we have these districts advisory councils where we just get our, districts together and talk about what's happening, and they kind of can share best practices and share things they're seeing happen within their districts. And I think, even from January until May, there were certain conversations that just ramped up. One, around student mental health, and like technology being a part of that solution has kind of gained increased traction, as far as like, we need to make sure that we're not just using, mental health supports and student supports, but also somehow using technology to help us enable our teams and be able to deal with the workload. And then the other is just around AI and student data privacy. Like, I feel like student data privacy has been important for a long time, but it's just gotten so much more important post-pandemic, especially and so a lot of our clients, they went from like having all of, onboarding tons of learning apps and resources, and now they're in that culling period of like, okay, we need to really tighten our app management. And, the first gate is data privacy and policies. And so they're kind of looking at that process and evaluating it. And there's some really great best practices out there, but that's definitely a process that we see almost all of our districts going through.
So along that line, we talk about so many apps, and when the pandemic hit and we shut down, it was just app after app after app after app. And I don't think anyone was ready for the compliance issues, the security issues that we all hit, especially when it comes to student privacy. And it came to student privacy away from school. Every school was like, okay, we've got our firewall locked down. And then it was like, now they're all going home and they're taking this Chromebook with them. And what do we do at this point? Out of that, I know a lot changed. I would say your company, especially for you guys, that was like feast time, because it was like, okay, we have all of this coming in. It's changing the whole way we do things. And now it's even more. It was funny you said, it was 1-to-1 all of a sudden. Well, now I can tell you some district, this guy, I've got Chromebooks in carts. I've got Chromebooks going home. So kids actually have two. I've got Chromebooks everywhere, iPads coming out of my ears, and that's a really big deal. So what I'm getting at is, yes, parents want to know what their kids are doing. The biggest one was teachers. How do I handle all these groups of kids, these classrooms of kids? I want to speak to that because right now, that's the biggest thing, is to get our teachers on board because they're overwhelmed in the classroom. Let's talk about real quick what Lightspeed does for the classroom aspect, for the teacher, in class, out of class, at home, over the weekend, holidays, the summer, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Amanda, do you want to jump into that?
Sure. I think there's a number of different things that we do, right? And we've got a product really specifically for classroom teachers, our classroom management solution that gives teachers the ability, right? You've got all these kids in the class. Now they are looking at a screen and you're looking at, the back of somebody's laptop or Chromebook, and you can't tell what they're doing. It's moved away from pen and paper. So the classroom management product really allows them to see in real time what those kids are doing and kind of make sure that they're on task, make sure that they're not going to sites that they shouldn't be going to. They can set, web rules around what they're able to access. They can restrict it to specific sites if they want, you really need to focus on reading these articles on this page. Or if they're, opening it up, letting them do more research, but just want to have some guardrails and visibility there, they've got the ability to do that. So that's a great product. We just recently completely redid the UI there and, added some new features there just to make that, an even better experience and even easier for teachers. On our digital insight product as well, that's a place where we have the ability for apps to be requested. So the district can really manage, what are the approved applications that we're using and see, here's all the stuff that's in use. Here's what's approved and what's not approved, and if you've got, trying to get everybody to use this iExcel app for math, but you've got 5 other rogue apps that are being used, you can really take a look at where's the usage really happening and hone in on that and say, okay, let's stop paying for this thing because it's not being used, or let's, shut down this usage that we don't want to be happening. And then this is kind of a lead into digital equity as well, but that's a new module that we added in that analytics product as well. And it gives schools the ability to see real time, report at an aggregate and an individual student level of who has no internet or poor internet connectivity. You can set it to see both in school, but predominantly the use case is out of school. So you can really see now that we're, assigning things and homework is being done and submitted online. And we haven't had that visibility before into, what's happening when students take the devices home. This is a product that gives you that and lets you see, okay, this kid is struggling. They're not able to access the internet, or, they've got a poor connection. We can see, how many people are sharing that IP address, the things that are contributing to that experience. And then the school, can think about ways to, help mitigate that.
Well, I know I'm not sure how things are getting rolled out in other states, but in Arkansas, part of the process of taking data similar to what you're collecting and analyzing that data and figuring out, okay, how do we get internet access to, and again, in the state of Arkansas, they're actually applying it to everyone in the state. There's an Arkansas broadband initiative that has been slowly rolling out. And if I remember correctly, I think the cutoff is 2028, I think, is when it's kind of officially everything is supposed to be done by then. But primarily the conversation started with students having limited access to internet outside of the school building. I mean, I can remember when one of the big conversations when we first shut down, and even when we were coming back to trying to figure out what quote unquote the new normal was going to be, that one of the things they were looking at was, okay, when the students take their devices home, what do they have access to? And a lot of that in those days, honestly, was just, either pen and paper form, because they didn't have internet access at home, or was some kind of a Google form or what have you. It was very, and it was all very self-reporting. I had to say what my internet was like, and that's very subjective, right? I mean, I am an EduTech guy, so my internet at home is awful. Yes, I know it is better than a lot of the people around me, but from my perspective, it's no good at all. So I'm going to report, nope, my internet stinks, even though it is better than some of the people around. And of course, there were a lot of students who had no internet, and we were setting up, we were giving out jetpacks and hotspots, and we were setting up Wi-Fi, anywhere and everywhere that you could stick a tower. And looking back now, some of it just seems a little ludicrous. I mean, we would have internet access provided by a bus that would drive up into the middle of town, and the students all had to leave their house, come to this bus in order to do their schoolwork, to turn around and go home again. In the meantime, you have these families who are now displaced because of that. And so where I'm going with all of this is it's nice to see that there's a program in place, there's a process in place that is helping automate that collection side of things so that it's not so subjective. Here's the data and here's how you analyze it.
Absolutely. I will just add that's one of the key pieces of feedback that we heard with, when we were taking this idea and trying to assess the market need, was there really wasn't a good way for schools to know this. And, we heard people say that they used to make assumptions, based on free and reduced lunch. And then that went away, right? During COVID with universal free lunch, and parents stopped filling out that paperwork. So you lose that insight. And then a lot of them are, relying on surveys, which subjective, or you just don't get good response rates. And even when you do, it's just a point in time, right? And that can change. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So along that same line, in the equity part, let's talk about safety. Let's talk about wellness. That's a big one. We're having I don't know what is it? It's not a revolution. It's an interesting movement right now in the country. It's always been there, but right now I think the pandemic brought it on, and we realized that everyone's mental health is very important, especially mine, because I'm losing it all the time. But that's a really interesting place that we are now. And you guys are using AI to actually monitor some of this and find this now. Is that correct? Am I jumping on the right ship there? Nope. Yeah.
Yeah. Klaire, did you want to touch on some of the AI?
Sure. I mean, you're right. So we've been using, AI and machine learning to be able to sift through all of the information that, all the student behavior and their digital world, what are they doing online? And then picking up signals of, concerning behavior, whether it's self-harm, whether it's, potential violence to themselves or others, or, now drugs. There's a lot of different kind of categories that we've been training these AI models on to be signaling. And I think, this is different than the Gen AI conversation, right? This is the machine learning, artificial intelligence, just being able to go through so much more data in an efficient way. So yes, we've been using that for our Lightspeed Alert product. And we also couple that with the human side. So we have a group of safety specialists that then kind of go through those alerts at there's different, each district is going to set it up differently, but they kind of are the human review of that to make sure okay, this isn't something that they should be really concerned about. This is something they should be really concerned about. So it's kind of that combination of using the technology, the artificial intelligence technology to flag, but then using the humans to be able to vet and make sure that the right issues are brought to the district and escalated for the fastest resolution. So we kind of use that combination, and then the districts decide how they want and what types of alerts they need. Because we know their teams are overstaffed. I mean, not overstaffed. We wish they were understaffed. And so having that team that's kind of looking behind their back and helping them, especially when they're out of, they need to take a break in the evening also, but that team is there to be be like monitoring and making sure if some critical situation arises that they will get to the right person at the district so they can intervene. So yes, we have been using it for a long time in that capacity. And then recently with like this rise of, AI in education from like a generative apps perspective, we started Amanda's team, like as we saw that become really important in those district, like in those conversations we had with our district partners, they kept bringing that up. And Amanda's team has been working to start surfacing insights. And we've been creating more features for them to monitor and detect AI usage and determine how they're going to what policies they're going to enact. Most schools aren't blocking, but some were initially blocking certain AI apps, especially the generative AI apps. And then, but just being able to give that information and give them the flexibility to manage and monitor that in a more granular way so that they can make good decisions and see what's happening across their district, across grade levels, who's using ChatGPT, is it high school, what, you know what I mean? They can see all that through our tools and then make better decisions.
So I have a question. I'm going to jump back one real quick because I jumped into the whole student wellness thing, without.
Okay. Sorry. Yep.
No, that's cool. So I want to know, when it comes to student wellness, the reason I'm asking is we're dealing with something in our district that we haven't seen before. We're seeing a lot of mental health issues that are turning into violent acts and things like that, among students. But the interesting part is that the students seem to be the most concerned about it. So I think I was getting to, what are you guys seeing? And if I'm off base and, we don't know, that's a great question. But what are you seeing? Who seems to expect it and appreciate it more? The students, the parents, the educators. Have you noticed? Are you guys seeing? I mean, I know you eventually will see more data on that, but are you seeing any data on that now? Like, yeah, the students are using this, and they appreciate this feedback, or it's the educators, it's the parents, because I know the parents have an ability in their app to do the same thing. So I was wondering if you guys seeing anything along that line. Mm-hmm. That's a hard one, isn't it?
So you're talking about in terms of the
use
service to students, or?
Yeah, like are the districts saying, hey, this is a real big piece of your product that we like? Is this one of the bigger pieces, the product that they like? Is it a great selling point? There you go. What's their favorite piece? No. What's the favorite product? What's the favorite flavor? See, to me, it's for us right now, that's a big one. It's like student wellness, because the other stuff is great because it's phenomenal, but the student wellness part's a really cool part to this.
I think, more and more we're just hearing, and like we're taking the perspective too of that like whole student. And so we've had products that, kind of do individual things and might serve, specific personas. And that tells you like part of the story, right? Like, what are they trying to do here? What are they doing in this classroom? But what we're hearing and what we're trying to do is like pull all of those pieces together, do more like product integrations, surface things that are happening in the classroom and connect those to, the activity that's happening at home, on their devices, and like things that they, might be searching for that are concerning, that are getting raised to our alert team, and like being able to pull all those pieces together. So that's something that like we definitely have, an eye on. And we recently stood up a product advisory board, with some of our districts to kind of hear what they're encountering. And this is some of the feedback that they've given, right? Same thing. Like we're trying to figure out how to deal with these things in our districts. And then that helps shape, some of the things that we're doing with our products.
That really clarified a lot for me. And that actually brought up a great question. That was a great answer for my stupid question. That was really, I was all over the place, but it's really, so it's really funny. We don't want students using social media in school, but they're using social media everywhere else. And what you just explained was, hey, listen, we need to do this so that we can find out better ways to serve the students and prepare them for that. And I think that was a great answer to which I really like the direction that your company's going in that line. That makes more sense. Like, yes, it's time to not just ban social media in the school. It's time to help them learn how to use it to benefit them as a whole learner. That makes complete sense. Thank you for explaining that for Jeff.
So I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the digital equity piece, and more specifically, if you've got maybe an example or two, but an example of a district that may not have realized what their digital equity situation was until they looked at the data that you were able to provide, and then went, oh, we didn't even realize that, this over here was an issue. And now, we've got to address it. And then the follow up to that, have they, did that same place address it, or how did they address it once they saw the data kind of, in black and white on paper, as it were, digital paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's, I will say that it's a brand new product. So we've just officially released it in the last month. We've got a handful of clients that we've been, working with as we've led up to this, that are taking, kind of a first look at it and giving us feedback and looking at the data. And we've gotten, great insights from them. They've kind of shared, like districts have different needs, and, sometimes they think they know who has issues, and then they realize that they don't. But one of the really interesting things that we heard from one of the districts was that they felt like this will help them kind of work in the background without, having to have that stigma of you're a student in need, or even pulling in parents to be like, well, hey, is your internet poor, whatever, that they can just see this, at the aggregate and the student level, and make decisions for their district without, those other obstacles that they've had before, in a quicker, more seamless manner. But also just, there's no kind of face to it, right? These are the kids that are experiencing this. These are the kids that aren't.
Yeah. And I think like Amanda said, it'll be interesting because we're in this summer period. So we're working, especially with this group of clients, as they ramp back up to school. They're starting to think about what kind of processes are we putting in place so that we can begin to mitigate as we see the data come in, and we can see, okay, this group of students is having issues, and they can say, all right, it's a device issue. We're going to swap those devices out quickly. Or it's a connectivity issue. Then maybe we can redeploy hotspots, or so they're starting to think about those, what kind of processes they can put in place and to help the students. But it's going to be really interesting. We're super excited to kind of work with them as they ramp back into school and see the data kind of really come to life, and begin to help solve those problems. And Amanda's team's going to be meeting with them regularly to hear how we can support that, and how they're mitigating some of those problems they're encountering with the data.
Well, and I will, so on that note too, Klaire, I'll add that there are a number of different pieces of information that we pull in to kind of complete that picture. So, we started with the broad problem of internet connectivity. But there's so much more that goes into that. So within the report and digital equity, they're actually able to see, one, what's the median internet speed, but also what type of device are they on? Who is their internet provider? I mentioned before, about the IP address and number of users on that. So maybe the internet's okay, but it's overwhelmed by the number of users that are on there. And then we also have, an individual student report that gives you those details that Klaire was talking about the device. So they can see, maybe there's not enough memory or storage available. And those things are also contributing to how effectively the student can do their work.
Well, and I think that is such an important piece, because a lot of times the students themselves, they're not going to necessarily either know that their device is underpowered, or, doesn't have enough memory, or doesn't have enough storage, or whatever that case may be, or B, they're not necessarily going to report that should they even be aware of it. So even if they are aware of it, there's, they're not necessarily going to come back and go, hey, this thing is too slow, or this is, they're just going to use what they have for various reasons that, that they're not going to speak up about it. I mean, now I'm old, so this is going to date me a little bit, but, back in the day, if I was issued a book and it was missing, pages 352 to 357, I didn't necessarily let the teacher know it was missing those pages. I just kind of went along and hoped, for the best, right? So to me, this is a very similar situation where, you might have a student who's got this device that's not necessarily up to par for whatever reason, and they're not going to self-report. By the same token, the techs may not even be aware of it. So you're able to generate that out, share that information back with the district, and the district go, oh, yeah, wow, we did a massive rollout. Maybe we upgraded the memory and all the machines not long ago, and somehow this one fell through the cracks. There it is in black and white. Merry Christmas.
It's cute. You thought that parcel of animal skins was a book, but that's
it was my slate and rock. Leave it alone.
we missed you. We missed you guys at ISTE for a circus of errors, a comedy of errors that happened for us and everybody else.
That's a disaster.
So, what was the big for you guys? What's the big draw? What's the big draw when superintendents and board members and teachers and parents come up and they see everything that you guys can do? What's the biggest draw that you find, like, this attracts teachers, this attracts administrators, and this attracts tech guys? Oh, the tech guys love this part. What's been the biggest one, marketing wise?
Yeah, I mean, at ISTE, for example, we showed off our new user experience for the classroom management application. And honestly, teachers just loved it because, it allows them to drag and drop their student desktops. So, based on their seating map, or they can color code and they can merge classes. And so we really tried to make it a much more easy and engaging visually user experience. And so they really loved that. We had tons of teachers stopping by the booth, checking it out and playing with it. And then also we did show some new features we're working on there, which they also love. So that was definitely the teacher draw. And it was, ISTE obviously being such a great show for educators. That was a lot of fun. So talking to a lot of our educators there that are using the tool, and really excited to be on the new version, come back to school. And then the other thing I think is really in our analytics tool, the kind of one-stop visibility of being able to see all the apps in use on at your district. I think that's just always a big eye opener because, whether it's a instructional technology team or the IT team, they have been so used to not being able to have a holistic view of everything that's running. And so when they start using it and they see, okay, I have, 550 apps that are somewhere being used either on the device or, through the network. And so I can start, making decisions around all of those things, are they all good? Do I need to have data privacy concerns? Do I have to change the way that, or focus on different things from a professional development perspective? We spend a lot of money on this application, but we're not getting teachers aren't using it the way that we want them to. So how do we change that professional learning process, or how do we ramp that up? So I feel like that's been a huge, a big eye opener for a lot of our districts who are just starting to use it and starting to look at that data and just be thinking about all the ways they can use it to improve certain things for teachers and for instructional teams.
Happy teachers, happy administrators, everybody's happy.
Yeah, true.
Best way. So,
Amanda, were you going to add something?
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I agree. And I think that Digital Insight really has kind of that wow factor. But what we hear, right, is that it saves them money because they're able to look at it and see what's actually in use. Let's stop paying for this. Let's do this instead. And it just streamlines a lot of workflows. Privacy policy monitoring shows you in highlighting what's changed. So you can be yep, nope. Okay, move on. You don't have to scroll through, 15 pages of text.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Everybody loves a clean dashboard. I'm just going to So at ISTE also, what tchotchke was there? Was there flying plush monkeys, T-shirts, pins, stickers?
We were EdTech superheroes. So
yes,
we had capes and masks and yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. The floor, and we saw it, and I was like, "Hey, there goes some superheroes."
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
Very cool. What a great tie-in.
Okay, all that said, so we're all about the tchotchke.
That's why we really go to
Yes.
we were gonna bring you capes, but we just didn't connect at ISTE. So next time,
cool. We'll catch you.
That's right.
CEA. We'll catch you.
That's right. We'll catch you at one of the acronyms.
We actually have our own capes and suits. You don't want to see us wearing, but we have these extra capes and stuff. But I tell you what, if our listeners want to find out more, what's the best way they can get in touch with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I would say just visit our website, lightspeedsystems.com, and also follow us on LinkedIn. We're pushing out, updates and new information, fun blogs to read, things like that. But that's the easiest way. And if you're a client of ours and you use our solutions, then you probably have a client success manager, and they're always there. You can just call them and ask them, I want to see this new digital equity feature or the new classroom user experience, and they'll hop on a call with you and share that information. But yeah, that's probably the best way.
Awesome. Yeah. Amanda, Klaire, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.